everyone. I'm just so excited. Happy Wednesday, wherever you are. Again, I'm happy to be here in our Cafecito Power Break. I have my Cafecito here, and I'm just so excited to hold the topic that we're going to talk about. I've been like counting the days to have our incredible guest here, Dulce Orozco. Dulce is a licensed mental health counselor. She is the Latina immigrant therapist. And an incredible speaker overall, and I could just go on and on raving about all the wonderful things that you do. But I'm just so excited to have you here. And she's a United Latinas member as well. So thank you, Dulce, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Ileana. I was so looking forward to this. I'm very excited to talk about this topic, which is near and dear to my heart. And thank you, everyone joining. Isabela, Daza, thank you, thank you.
Yes, and so let's jump right in. We're going to
Do
be
it.
talking about why it is so challenging for us to ask for help, and especially I think a lot of us as Latinas, it's even there's another layer there about asking for help. So I know that I could go on and on about
Hmm.
why it's challenging for me, but I would love to hear from you and your experience and your expertise. Why? What's happening with
Yeah.
us?
So I'm going to answer this both from my personal experience and also I work mostly with Latinas, right? Or one on one with Latinas, also with people of color and from immigrant families. So I'm going to tell you from both ways because the thing is, it's what I found, it's the same. It's like common denominators, right? So it's really interesting for me. And I don't know what you guys think, those that are joining us, and you, Ileana, that as a collective, right, or the Latina culture, we have this reputation of being, that we act in such a collective way. Yet it's such a contradiction between how we want to do things or how so many of us think about us being like superwoman, right? Like for me, that's such a contradiction. And I think about this often. One thing that I've seen is that because unfortunately, and I know that's changing, and we are making this change with communities like United Latinas, but because we've been used to having just one seat at the table, right? Like there's one seat for Latinas, for women of color, for women from immigrant families. I do feel that puts a lot of pressure on us. So asking for help, it's almost not an option because we need to prove them. We need to show them I deserve to be here. And that comes hand in hand with perfectionistic tendencies, right? Which I don't know how many of us identify with having perfectionistic tendencies. But again, it's almost like there's no space for mistakes, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I can see like already the yes, yes, yes. Perfection, right? It's not only even like the 100%, it's like the 150%. And it resonated with me so much what you said about the superwoman
Ah,
um, effect, right? Like just feeling that we have to have all the answers, we have to have all the solutions, we have to solve the problems for everybody as well. Like we're the problem solvers. So therefore, how can we ask for help if we're the ones that are always coming in and picking up the pieces of
yes,
everybody else around us, right? So I think
yes,
that also has that added layer I just need to deal with all of it, and I can't allow myself to ask for help. And the other thing, and I see this happening at least with me personally, is the shame and the guilt,
mm,
right? Like the shame of how can I even think about asking for help? Then
it's not
people are
an
going to
option.
feel that I can't, right? That I'm not good enough, everything that you've sort of said, or the guilt of feeling that I can't deliver. On it. So there's so many things uh,
Yes.
that I can see, and so. when it comes, you specifically not only tackle it as a Latina, as a woman yourself, as a mom, as a professional, as a business owner, but also you tackle it from like your point of view as a mental health counselor, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to our mental health, like how can asking for help be really beneficial so that we can start shifting our mindset a little bit on this?
Yeah. So I know that this might sound so simple, but yet there's so much beauty in it, right? And it can be so complex too. And please tell me if you identify with this, but it seems to me that so many of us, our self worth equals what we do, our productivity, right? Like those tangible things that we put out in the world, like the results. So when we ask for help, automatically we're choosing not to do that much. Like we're outsourcing, we're saying, hey, please help me out. And that, in a way, is forcing us to separate our self worth from what we do. It's almost like allowing ourselves to do less and realizing that that's not going to impact how we value ourselves and how we show or how we want the world to value us, right? So I guess that's kind of like a mindset shift, like shifting the paradigms, which in my head that comes hand in hand with also shifting how we see the world, right? And this is connected to the previous question, but it seems to me that one of the benefits is disrupting this mindset of life is hard. It has to be hard because otherwise, if I didn't, have lágrimas de sangre when I was like, like doing this, then it's not worth it. Just yesterday, I've heard this expression like, "How are you?" Aquí en la lucha, luchando, right? Like, but do we have to, right? Like, so I see that as a big benefit, Ileana, like almost an indirect benefit, right, of disrupting and changing our mindset and all those things that we've learned, really, so many of us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of it's always we say hello, and then the next thing is to your point, like aquí sufriendo,
Sufriendo,
aquí
sufriendo.
con tanto trabajo, el caos, like no, like there's always that negative side of it versus oh, here just having fun with my cafecito. Like it sometimes even feels like how can I say that I'm having a good time?
Is that
With
even allowed, right?
exactly, exactly. And I love a lot of the comments that are coming in about asking for help is like admitting that you failed.
Oh,
Right, like I think that's so critically important, right? The personal responsibility of understanding, what does help mean for each of us is
yes.
part of that journey. And I know that you have a couple of tips that you can share with us that we can start practicing, but before we jump into those tips,
Yes.
um, as I was hearing you, uh, when are there things that we do or that happen to us that can make us become aware that we're actually doing it, right? Because sometimes I feel that we're so into it that
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize we're just like giving and giving and giving and doing and doing and doing, and we're not sitting down and realizing, hey, we're overwhelmed. We
Yes.
literally just hit that wall, wait to crash, and then that's when it hits us. Like, is there like a signal or something that we can be warned,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting into this?
Yeah, and that's such a good question, and I feel that changes for each of us. But what I think it's so helpful is to really connect with our bodies, right? And to learn how to listen to our bodies, because the way I see it is our bodies are often and always telling us, and we normalize this. We normalize things, right? Like we normalize having migraines every month, or we normalize sleeping 4 hours and being miserable, or we normalize just feeling stressed and tired. And, like that's part, we normalize it as part of life. And then when you talk to other people and other people reaffirm and confirm they're living through the same thing, it's like, oh, yeah, right? Like that's what living in la lucha means. So, um,
Yeah.
I would invite everyone to really connect with your bodies. For me personally, something that it's almost like a red flag is when I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and I have like a really hard time falling back to sleep. Like it's
Yeah.
3 in the morning and it's been half an hour after I went up to use the bathroom and I'm still like this.
Yeah.
That for me is a big. It's like, okay, something it's going on, right? Another one, and it's like the way I think about this, Ileana, is like steps, right? Like it's gradual, like you said. So many of us, we realize that it happened when we're on the third floor, but what's that, the first step, the second step? For me, probably like getting to the first floor. It's having a lot of neck and
Oh
upper
my God.
back
Yes.
pain, right? Most likely that happens after the big stressor has passed. It's not during or before. I feel like my body's, it's like, oh, okay, you went through it. Now you can be in pain almost, right? Like now you have enough energy to be in pain. But again, it's another warning sign. So I don't think we know how to listen to our bodies, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, our body keeps going like step by step by step until it gets to the point where we can have a muscle spasm and we're not able to even like put our bras on, right? Because we literally cannot function or we literally cannot move. So that, and that changes. I don't know what's one of your warning signs or like the people that are joining us, but I would say like really connecting to our bodies. They're always talking to us, and unfortunately, so many of us, we don't know what to make out of that conversation.
I love what you're saying because you're absolutely right. I think I've become more aware of listening to my body the last couple of years, but I still feel like I forget to do
Mm,
that on a regular basis. But what I have done is I've learned to listen to others. And sometimes like for example, my husband will tell me like, "Are you okay?" And
mm,
looks at me, and I've learned to understand that that question means like, are you really okay? Because there's something, like you look tired, like there's something happening.
mm.
And before I used to like get upset, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, of course I'm
Almost
okay.
offended, right?
Almost offended. But now I've learned to hear and to put attention and to say, okay, if they're asking me, are you okay? That means that they're seeing something that I'm not seeing,
Yes,
right? Because you're
yes.
right. Sometimes we might forget the listening to your body, but somebody else might still, you
That
know,
know you and that might see that
yeah,
even when you don't see it. And I just want to say briefly before
yeah,
going to the
yeah,
tips, Ileana, because this reminded me of the benefit of living in community, right? When we ask for help, that means that you have a community, that you're part of a community. United Latinas is a community where we can, create and establish and nurture relationships where we can eventually feel comfortable asking for help. And as mothers, as mentors, as community leaders, it's almost an opportunity to teach by example of what it means, right? Like, yes, this is something that you can do, and that doesn't mean that you're failing. Like we were talking about before, right? So, the community aspect of asking for help for me is crucial.
yeah, yeah. So important, so important. So let's hop onto the tips. What are the, easy small steps, which they're really not easy, but small steps to get started, to like start practicing asking for help.
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know if this is a tip. Tell me what you think. But it's paying attention to the barriers, right? Because so many times it's almost like we're so used to not asking for help that we are very good and creative at coming up with excuses that are excuses dash barriers, right? So it's like pay attention and even like question, is that even true? One thing can be, and asking for help from so many different areas of our lives, right? Like let's say you're outsourcing and you're contemplating hiring someone to help you clean the house, and it's like, no, no, eso es muy caro, yo no lo necesito, I can do it by myself. I've been doing it by myself for, like 20 years. Why all of a sudden? So it's like, well, can you pay attention and really question without judgment, right? Like, and I feel this is the key, with that loving curiosity, without judging yourself, without criticizing yourself. Like, can you really question, is that true? Is it true that you can do it by yourself? So yeah, that I guess paying attention to the excuses and how creative we can get at justifying why we're not asking for help.
Yes, yes. No, you're absolutely right. And I think we could go on with excuses all the time. And we do
Yes.
we become really good at
So
blaming it
good.
on so many things, right? Including ourselves, like, oh, it's because of course I did this or whatever, right?
So
Oh
good.
my God. Yes.
Yes. Another thing is, um, and I love the reframe when you were saying it's not easy, right? Like, because again, it's almost like going against the current, right? Like, but um, another thing is, can you give yourself permission to start looking for alternatives before you need them? And I'm gonna give you, if it's okay with you, a personal example. So my daughters are 4 and 6, and um, not too long ago. So this was during December break. We've known that we needed a babysitter, or that we needed someone to be, for emergencies, for, like we needed to get to know someone. And it took me, so it was so hard for me, Liana. Like, I had so much resistance, again, because we've been doing it by ourselves. It's always like coordinating between me and my husband. But we decided to look for someone before we actually needed that person, or before we were in this emergency or whatever it was. And that was really, really helpful, because at the beginning of January, we needed her and we had someone to call. So it's almost like, instead of like jumping to the pool, can you like put your toes first, and can you give yourself time to do it on your own terms, right? But taking action, not like getting froze in that space where I don't need it, or es muy caro, right? Like, so can you give yourself permission to start doing your research and to start, like doing an interview, whatever it is that you need to do, but take small actionable steps.
I think that's so important what you're saying. It's about the preempt, right? Like the prevention, or doing it before versus the reaction, versus once you've already hit the wall and there's no going back. And you hit on a very important point, which has to do with the money. A lot of cases it stops us because it's going to cost money, but we don't realize that actually the cost of doing it after
Oh,
is going to be 5, 6, 7 times more than if we would have planned it beforehand, right? Like we don't realize that the difference, and that
yes,
stops us, right? It's such a different mindset of saying I'm actually saving money, so to
yes,
speak, and and saving ourselves so many other things versus,
Energy, time, right? Like
yeah,
resources. It's like forcing ourselves to do something we're not necessarily good at, and it takes us 6 hours where we could ask for help, potentially pay someone that could do it for us in 20 minutes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. Oh my God, I feel like we could continue on with this topic for another hour, because I could start thinking about like other things. But I think thinking about the help piece,
Mhm.
and you gave us the tips and you told us like what can we look for. How can we find you? And I've put like your contact information already. Connect with Dulce on LinkedIn, connect with Dulce on her website. But in general, like just briefly tell us like what do you do? How can we connect with you?
Yes, thank you so much. So, I am a licensed mental health counselor. I am licensed in the state of Massachusetts, and I work one on one with women of color and from immigrant families. And I also work with groups of people of color and from immigrant families. And what I do is I assist people that are ready to improve their relationship with themselves to create new realities where they can see how unique and how magical they are. And I know that might sound so cheesy for some people, but that's how I think of us, right, Ileana? When we stop competing with each other, when we stop thinking that there's only space for some of us, we can really see that each of us has so much to offer and that we're unique. Thank you for offering my information. You can find me on LinkedIn as Latina Immigrant Therapist, and my website is dulceorozco.com.
Thank you so, so much. And I thought that it was really important to share because you mentioned it at the beginning. We are a community, right? And it's up to us to help and support each other and to know that this is a safe space. United Latinas is a safe space for all of us to say, I can't do it. I don't know how. I'm like all of those things. There's not going to be any judgment here. We're here, all of us, for each other. Um, so thank you so much. Go ahead.
Absolutely. What I found, Ileana, and please let me know, those of you listening, thank you so much for your comments, is that once we are brave enough to open up, there's a quote I love that is, "What's the bravest thing you said?" And the answer was help, right? Because it's
Yeah.
so interesting that we have learned to look at help as something, as a weakness, when in reality it takes a lot of courage, right, to be able to say I can't do this by myself. And what I found is that once we're able to open up, um, we realize how many people are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like being able to open and holding this loving space where others are saying, "Oh, me too," right? Like, me too. I don't feel like I'm do a good job where with whatever, or I don't feel, and it's that changes everything when you hear it from others, when you realize you're not alone, when you realize, oh wait, this is a common experience, even if what we see on Instagram or what we see on, wherever, it's just like the nice pictures. People are actually going through this too. I'm not broken, I'm not failing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. You're not alone. Such an important word because sometimes we do feel alone. I know that I
Yes.
felt that way many, many times. Thank you, Hadassah, for dropping in the link so people can join us. You can click on that link to join United Latinas. Thank you so much, Dulce, for being with us. And please, we have a lot of events, incredible events coming up. Don't forget to sign up. Tomorrow, we have Sandra Noemi Torres, who is going to take us through an entrepreneur roadmap. So if you have a small business and want to grow it, or if you're starting your business and want to know how, definitely sign up for that one. It's tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll find the link on our website, unitedlatinas.com. And then we have Dr. Anita Sanchez, who is going to take us through a very powerful journey of finding our powerful essence through a lot of things that she does. It's an incredible, incredible workshop. Like, I definitely invite you to attend. If you're a member, remember that you have access to all of these workshops for free. And if you're not a member, join, because you'll have access to all of these, and you can still join if you're not a member. It's just a small fee compared to the benefits that you're going to get out of these events. So sign up for Dr. Anita. That's on February 16th at 12 p.m. as well. And she's going to take us through a guided imagery exercise. And then we have our first masterclass with Maritza Coscarelli on our leadership presence and how do we show up? How can we as Latinas show up and make ourselves be seen? She's going to take us through the first part of this masterclass on the 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. So sign up for that one as well. And we have several other events coming up that you'll find on our website. So thank you again, Dulce, for being here, and join us next week for another cafecito on Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any closing remarks?
Thank you. I just would really invite you to ask for help. Give yourself permission and see what happens. Give it a try. Most likely, you're not going to regret it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dulce.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.